producers of that missile are Russia and China, obviously neither of which is accessible to Ukraine. So the United States, in cooperation with Ukraine, developed a way to integrate Sea Sparrow missiles, which is a derivative of the AIM-7 Sparrow air-to-air missile that's been in U.S. service and now currently in the process of being retired for decades. Sea Sparrow was a surface-to-air missile adaptation of it for use by U.S. Navy vessels. We have countless tens of thousands of them, also in the process of being phased out. So this conversion was done to enable Ukraine to draw upon that inventory to, again, avoid the sustainment shortfall for these Soviet interceptors. We've gotten a bunch more data released about those, that the Buk Sparrow conversion specifically. It appears that the conversions are being done in the U.S. We're currently averaging about 5 conversions per month. They're being shipped to the U.S., the launchers converted, then shipped back to Ukraine. Work is primarily being done by U.S. engineers. The Ukrainians wanted to do a large part of the work themselves, but apparently the Pentagon and whatever contractors are working on this largely refused that offer and insisted on the work being done, insist on doing the work themselves here in the U.S. So again, that translates to about 5 systems being converted per month. The reporting as of about 24 to 48 hours ago is that Ukraine just recently received the first of those converted systems over the past few weeks to past month or so. I'm not sure that specific part is necessarily accurate. I was personally under the impression, based upon the conversations I've had with some other folks, that there had been a couple that had been converted a while ago. But in any case, now there seems to be kind of a steady throughput of these conversions with an additional 17 pending over the next 3 to 4 months. The other big news is that, as I mentioned, Frank and Sam originally referred specifically to this Buk Sparrow conversion, but it has now become a larger series of programs that Frank and Sam collectively refers to them all. Buk Sparrow has its own project name now that is totally unknown to me. And the other 2 projects that fall under Frank and Sam are some sort of system to launch AIM-9M Sidewinders from a ground-based platform to fill a short-range air defense role analogous to that ASRAAM conversion, AIM-132 ASRAAM provided by the UK on that MBDA, or that, the HMT Supercat chassis provided by the UK. More or less analogous to that. The first AIM-9Ms from the US were delivered, I want to say 2 months ago. Canada delivered AIM-9Ls all the way back in May. My understanding is that the public reporting has been that a Western air-to-air missile, not explicitly stated, was integrated on the MiG-29 or Su-27. My guess is that that's Sidewinder, because AMRAAM has a lot of technical complications in that regard. So it seems that Sidewinder is probably now being used on the Soviet aircraft, as well as some custom SAMs that we have created for the Ukrainians. And then finally, the third major project, and I was somewhat aware that some integration studies were being done in this area, but I was not aware that they were nearly this advanced, was the integration of Patriot launchers and interceptors with Ukrainian radar systems directly. It looks like, I'm guessing we've taken either probably the surveillance radars from S-300P, or perhaps some of the more modern Ukrainian-built radars that are derivative of those, and integrated them with a Patriot launcher and interceptor. It isn't clear what missile it is, if it's PAC-2, PAC-3, be it CRI or MSE. But it appears that has been done and has successfully completed testing at White Sands Missile Range, missile and test range here in the U.S. And so the first of those systems should be delivered, hopefully relatively soon, over the next couple of months. And that will help fill kind of that medium to long range air defense capability role, and kind of help string out their magazine depth longer than is currently possible with the available supply of Soviet legacy interceptors.
Thank you, John. That's good news. Up in the nest for our live listeners, I've put 3 items from Alex and Colby, which are germane to this. So this is a collaboration between Ukraine and Ukraine's allies. The Colby's one notes the collaboration between the U.S. Department of Defense and Ukraine. Is there anything within these articles that is of particular note to you?
I think the thing to understand is that this is not, I guess, an ideal set of steps. Take, for example, the Book Sparrow integration. That's actually probably a decrease in capability on an individual basis for the Books relative to the performance they'd get with the purpose designed Soviet interceptors. Were, for example, talking a range reduction from about 35 kilometers to 25 kilometers. So this is very much a product of necessity. Some of these systems may not be as effective as Book as purpose designed, or a Sea Sparrow system as purpose designed. It's again very much a response to emergency operational needs on the Ukrainians' part.
Thank you, John. Okay. For those of you listening on Spotify or Apple, you can find these links on the Tochnyi main account. Please do check out those for further information. Okay, so moving on to a unique interview brought to us today by Bionada with a Ukrainian, a photographer who toured Ukraine, capturing moments of the lives of Ukrainians during 2022 and 3. Before we roll the tape, Bionada, can you tell us, during your visit to Ukraine to deliver humanitarian aid, where did you meet Alex?
Yeah, actually, I met Alex on the train on the way back from Kiev to Poland. He was sitting right next to me, and we had a nice conversation. Taught him about our project, what we're doing here in Tochnyi, and he showed me some of his pictures he took. And yeah, we will listen later to a part of this interview, and it's very impressive, in my opinion.
What do you appreciate most about his photography?
Yeah, so Alex has talent, in my opinion, to capture civilians in the war, right? Like civilians continuing their normal life or trying to continue their normal life in a country which is, at war. We know not everything is destroyed in Ukraine, but some areas are heavier destroyed than others. You can see the marks everywhere in Ukraine because everywhere was attacked by Russia, right? And he captures the contrast between the civilians and the effects of the war pretty well.
Thank you, Bionada. One last question. This was put out earlier on the Tochnyi main account. It's definitely worth restating. What do we want the audience to do during this interview and after it?
Yeah, we would like the audience to send us or comment on our space, basically. What is their favorite picture about Ukraine? What is the picture? What showed the situation for them at best? And also go to the Instagram account of Alex, which we will put in the link, and also on the pictures there will be the name of the Instagram account, which is vision_of_Alex. And there you can see couple of pictures of him, and you can tell us about it and decide what's your favorite and which pictures are describing the situation for you at best.
Thank you. Yeah, that we all have memorable photographs from this war, whether it is, I don't want to influence the picture people choose, but whether it's from the initial outset of the full-scale invasion last year, the liberation of Kherson, which came at a very heavy price for Ukraine's liberators, and was an inspirational sight for Ukraine's allies at the time. Whatever part of this war you remember, and the two questions, just to be very specific about this, we'd like you to tell us why do you remember this photograph? Where were you when you first saw it? And why do you think it is particularly significant? So any answer is a good answer. We will take any answers, any photographs. We can't take anything which is gore or anything like this, but anything else, please do feel free to either DM it to us if you're a little bit shy, with a short text explaining and telling us your answer to those questions, or please do request the mic. Come up, stick it in the nest. We'll be happy to hear you speak about it. Okay, on that note, let's go. Roll the tape.
Welcome, Alex. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
We met each other in the train on the way back from Kiev 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was quite. Yeah, exactly. That was quite the adventure.
Yeah.
Call it that.
That was quite an adventure. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your background, where you're from, what you're doing, and what reason you had to go?
Sure. I want to start off by thanking you for inviting me. I mean, we started off just by discussing in the train, as you said, and we agreed that, like, hey, maybe we can talk about photography a bit and the war. And I'm really grateful that you guys have invited me here. So my background is I'm from Moldova, which is a country very close to the war zone and to what's going on across the water, so to say. I have a background in photography and also engineering and other things, but mainly for now it's relevant to talk about photography, I guess. I've been shooting photography since maybe I was 6 or something, so for a very long time. And for a quite period of time, I wanted to help or contribute to in some way or form to the people who are in Ukraine. And of course, there's the donations and there's the charity activities you can do, but I never felt like I was doing everything I could. And I saw how much media there is coverage of the front line, and it was quite exciting. And I thought, oh, maybe I can do that as well. And then I realized that actually there is no media coverage of the civilian life. And if I ask anyone in the Western Europe, Western world, then everyone asks, well, we have no idea, what's going on in Kiev. We have no idea what's going on in Ukraine. We have no idea how things are looking or how people are living their life. I mean, a lot of questions that I got from my friends when I went to Ukraine were, is it safe? Is it, is it a normal city? Is it destroyed? And yeah, my goal, I guess, with the photography was to try and showcase that, look, people are trying to live a normal life, but also there is a distinctive impact that the war has made on the people and the environment. And I think that's what I'm trying to cover with these photos, and was the main goal of the project when going to Ukraine, was to try and show the civilian life and also how their lives are impacted.
Yeah, I can totally agree with it, right? The questions you get from your friends and your family, the tips and things that they say to you, right? Be careful, remember it's a war zone, and they don't really
exactly
have a view for this. Similar reasons for me talking about these topics, social topics, society topics. Not many people talk about it, but it's really relevant for the moral, for the war, and for the whole effort, right? If you have a demoralized society, you're not going to win a war, but Ukraine is far from demoralized. Ukraine is strong. And that's why we are here to talk about your pictures.
I think this one ties in exactly with what you just said. The spirit is unbroken, They took the statue that used to be a Soviet monument, and they said, well, look, we're not going to demolish it. We think the message that the statue sends is very powerful, and we're just going to change the emblem, and we're going to make it our motherland, and our victory. And yeah, if we talk about that victorious spirit that the Ukrainians have, and this, unbroken spirit almost, I think this is like that. That's what I wanted to represent for this picture. So you see, the motherland, and then you also have the Ukrainian flag flying right above. This was a double exposure, and it was done actually. The flag is the flag that is flying right next to the statue, so these two are very connected to each other.
Oh yeah, I visited this place myself. I think quite a lot of museums around there. And actually, the place it's limited to visit.
We asked, and we got an explanation as to why the place was closed, and so they closed the whole area when the war began, and they're gonna reopen the area when the war is won. Let's call it that. I don't want to call it that the war is over. I want to call it that the war is won, and I think that's very symbolic, and it's also very powerful. And you might, some Westerner maybe that travels there might get upset that, hey, I want to take a picture up close of this or whatever. But I think it speaks to the mentality that people have, that we are in this to win, and we're gonna allow people to come here when we win. And yeah, as you said, there are some museums, and I think it's important to visit those museums if anyone's in the area. They're very impactful, and one of them that is the closest has a reconstruction of the Hostomel shelter, and that is quite powerful to see, I think, to experience.
Yeah, I can imagine. Sadly, I didn't have enough time to go there.
Alex, if I may,
Go ahead.
It strikes me that people who have been to rallies, maybe in their town centres, maybe in their city centres across my small part of the world of the UK, they will see pictures of Ukrainian heroes, fallen Ukrainian warriors on these signs. And the similarities here are very striking to me. When I go to a rally in London, and I know this is true with rallies in Europe and in the US and Canada and elsewhere in the free world, it's very common to see the sight of the picture of a young man or young woman, quite often their face, their name, and a date on it, the date of their death. And this memorial that yourself and Bernarda both visited, the similarities there can't help but think back to such rallies that happen around the free world, and the solidarity which is shown with Ukrainians, and also the showing of the Ukrainian flag, which in one of your previous pictures, which this is such a great photo we're looking at now, please don't feel free to, but please don't feel the need to click back to it, but the one of the damaged building with the Ukrainian flag in it, that defiance that is shown during a war in which Ukrainians have faced the possible eradication of their Ukrainian identity. That defiance is perhaps easily overlooked, that there are Ukrainian flags up and down high streets and in city centres across Europe and across the free world. But to see it in Ukraine, in the photograph in your collection, in this photograph we're currently looking at, is a symbol of defiance in itself. I imagine during your journey across Ukraine, that defiance is a familiar sight.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know how well aware people are, but the Ukrainians who were, let's call it in a different way, the territory that was invaded by Russia in the first days of war, the people who lived in those areas, they had to hide the flags, they had to hide everything that was patriotic, because if they didn't, then they would get burnt or destroyed by the Russians. So the fact that, as you say, people are now raising their flags out again, so they're literally digging them out of the ground. And within my circle, I know of people who told me the stories of how they left instructions to other family members or friends of, go to this tree and go 5 steps to the left of the tree and dig there like 1 meter, and then you're going to find this and this and this. And if you dig 3 meters to the right, then you're going to find this and this and this. And so people had to do this. They had to hide the flag. They had to hide everything. And I think it is this defiance of saying, well, look, we are now free in this area, so we're going to show our flag. And even in areas where I believe like there is huge confrontations, people are still trying to be defiant, but maybe more carefully, I hope.
That's a very powerful
account of life in the occupied territories. Thank you for that, Alex.
Right. Well, one thing I wanted to showcase is the normal life, and the weird thing, and I don't know if Philip will agree with me, but basically, like, when living in, when staying in Kiev for a few days, after a while, it starts to become also normal for you. You just go about your day, you go grocery shopping, you go do your things, and you start to forget almost that what is really going on. So when I had a set of photos showcasing the real life, and I wanted to post those on Instagram, I was hit by a second thought of, why is this important? Why am I showing people just selling their apples and their fruits? People just going about their day. And I was reminded of why is that important after I posted, because some of my friends messaged me and said, is this really how it is? Are people just going about their day and seeing Kiev and just looking at the city and just taking a break? And it's this dystopian reality of, you have to go on, you have to enjoy your life, because you don't know what's tomorrow, right? And so a lot of people just go about their day, and that was kind of that was the theme of the first idea, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like literally the difference between day and night, right? And the night you have air raid alerts, and
Exactly.
on the day people live their life to the fullest. And I myself had this experience that I just posted pictures from the day, nice pictures, the life in the city, the life on the countryside where I was a couple of days before. And then someone made a comment like, "Oh, it's doesn't look like war." And I had to remind myself, there's a contrast, and maybe I need to portray this contrast. And I made another tweet and explained, you see at this moment right now just the pictures from the day, right? But the night is different, and you have all this terror and terrorizing the Ukrainians every night and every morning, especially when people need to go to work or children need to go to school, right?
Exactly. I mean, you are very well aware of this, as well as I am. On the 21st of September, we had this air raid that also we had some rockets fly into Kiev, and it's scary. I cannot lie, it's very scary, especially when you hear the air defense system go off and you hear the rockets firing off and explosions up in the sky. It's not a calm environment. And for us, just to be there for a few days, you're in and you're out, and if everything is fine, then you come out unscathed. I mean, you have a very close experience, Philip, with the rocket actually falling fairly close to you, from what I remember.
Yes.
And that's a luxury that we have, that we can just go in and see it and experience it, and then go out and kind of leave it in the back of our head. But a lot of people have to live there, and they have to live with this constant threat that when they go to bed at night, they don't know whether they're going to be woken up by these explosions and by these rockets, or will they be woken up at all. And it was it actually, I think, was it a week ago or a few days ago, when there was an air raid at 5 in the morning, if I'm not mistaken, until 7. And then there was another air raid at 7 o'clock and at 8 o'clock in the morning or something like that. So there was a number of air raids that Russia has sent over. And they are kind of designed to break the spirit of the people, right? I mean, people wake up. And that was a shocking thing for me. After the air raid in 21st of September, I was looking outside, and after the curfew was lifted, people just started going about their day. They were running, they were jogging, were going to work. These raids that are happening during the day also meant to break that system, to say, well, look, you're still being oppressed by us, to say, you're still under our control and under our threat. And I love the defiance that Ukrainians are showing, that we don't care, we're going to live, and we're going to go enjoy the city, we're going to go about our day. And people are building businesses underground because of that, and that's just amazing to see. In this photograph, there's a lot going on. So this is around the center of the city, and there's a lot of posters that remind people about Azovstal and the defenders of Azovstal. And also there's a lot of donations going on throughout the city. But also there's a lot of these destroyed vehicles, basically, that serve as a constant reminder as to the war that's going on. And in this picture, you have this granny just walking by, checking the text on the board, but behind her and around her, you have these kind of like almost something that I don't know how old she is, of course, but it could be that in her childhood she went through Second World War, and now she's getting to experience this, and it's kind of like reliving certain things.
Yeah, actually, it's the building of the Kiev City Council, if I remember correctly. The mayor of Kiev, Klitschko, is sitting in this building. Very, very impressive contrast, and this building the style is very impressive, and it's a giant building, and it's still amazing that Ukraine managed, and I think the air defenders, they earned a own monument, because the city without all the air defense systems would possibly not look like it looks now. And
yeah, exactly,
it's very attacked the city. Damages usually will be repaired relatively quickly. So very impressive.
I want to move on to this photo, unless you have a question.
Alex, yeah, just one question. The photograph of the two guys in a wheelchair and your previous photograph of the Azov-style warriors, and listening to yourself and Bernarda talk about how you get jumpy at the sound of a train after experiencing error alerts in Kyiv. There's the way news is often delivered. It's usually in the form of good news. There's good news about the war. There's a breakthrough here. But there is this reality which you've shown in your photographs, which is that for many Ukrainians, there is not a lot of good news. Their homes are being destroyed. These two young men have had their mobility affected for life, in addition to the psychological trauma, the PTSD trauma, whatever it is that they have been afflicted by as a result of their injuries. This news is not often told. So as a photographer, how important is it for you to record the other side of this war, the side which is not the good news?
I think it's quite important because, I mean, not only as a photographer, but also as a media, any reporter, any news channel, I think, has this responsibility to create a full picture of the reality. And occasionally we might not be the best, so to say. I mean, maybe occasionally some people will pick certain photos that make a bigger impact, and then a certain picture gets painted. But I think it's important as a photographer to kind of try and bring an equal of information, so to say, to the table. And I think this is what I found really struggling is, how do I showcase the positivity of everyday life? How do I showcase how people are just dealing with their normal life, while also showcasing the reality that there is pain and that there is destruction, and that there's constant reminders that this is still a war, and that within the borders of Ukraine there is no peace yet. No matter how much people are trying to live it, there is still a very real threat. And I think that was a huge challenge. And in a way that I think what you mentioned before, there's this fatigue. And I believe that there's also some fatigue to seeing shocking images. People, I think, are tired to see these kind of shocking images. And I just believe it's a common reaction to our human body and to our brain to say, look, I've had enough, I've had enough of this damage. And you can understand that. But I believe that I had a challenge to try and say, look, there is still damage, but it's psychological. The people that you're seeing, they might look normal, they might look like they're fine, but inside they have this tremendous pain. And I believe it's important for the people in the West to see this, because otherwise, maybe for this, we will be able to become more sympathetic to the people who are affected by the war. I think that's the point that comes across.
Thank you, Alex.
Alex, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for bringing the pictures.
Thank you so much.
If you have more pictures in the future you want to talk about, you have other stories you want to talk about in detail, just let us know. And Slava Ukraini.
Yeah, Slava, and thank you Thank you so much. And I will be posting more pictures from my trip on my Instagram page. So if you can just go there and check some out as well. And yeah, just get in touch if you have any questions. I'm always open to talk to people about the experience.
Welcome, Alex.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you for thank you for the sound quality, Bernardo. That was a great job. We've had lots of submissions. Just before we move on to them, could you perhaps tell us a little bit about that picture of the wheelchair, the two gentlemen in wheelchairs, and where they can find this particular photograph?
Yes, they will be able to find it on the Instagram page of Alex. We put his handle up in the space information, right? In the space title, Vision of Alex. He uploads usually 10 pictures in a media library on Twitter on one post, and they're all thematically matching, right? You can watch these galleries on his Instagram profile, and also, like yet, you can write him a message if you're interested in the pictures or story behind this picture.
Fantastic. So let's go through some of these submissions. I think we're going to start with one from a member of our team, Germinate to Ukraine, which many of you will know by his Twitter hashtag, X hashtag, DEAIDUA. And that is the photograph of the Ukrainian soldier whose life has been saved by the helmets that he's wearing. That particular photograph is the second one above you in the nest. So second from left in the nest. Our podcast listeners can find that on our main account page. Yeah, he had this to say in answer to the two questions. Why he remembers it, or where he was when he first saw it. His response was that he will always remember this picture because it reminds him to always be grateful for every delivery to Ukraine, no matter how small or unimportant it seems. Its significance for him is that it reminds him of how even the smallest and most insignificant deliveries can have a big impact. In this case, it is one of the 28,000 helmets that Germany has delivered to Ukraine since this full-scale invasion began. For many people, he says, this picture probably means that Germany was not prepared to provide military support on a large scale, especially at the beginning or before the start of the war. But for him, it means that those the 5,000 helmets from back then, at best, saved 5,000 Ukrainian lives. It shows him also that a soldier can be given the best weapon, but even that is of no use to him if he cannot protect himself from bullets and shrapnel. So this is from I think many people are familiar with Germinate Ukraine's account. It's at DEAIDUA. He tracks munitions shipments, military aid to Ukraine from Germany, and he's been doing it a while. And he does an extremely efficient, good job at it. So please do check him out and give him a follow if you haven't done already. All right, let's move on to the next submission. Bernardo, where are you going to turn to next?
Okay, I will take my own submission next because I don't know which one was the second picture now. Anyways, there is when you go on on the Instagram page of Alex, there's a picture of a boy playing with his football next to a big housing complex, big block, apartment block. And on this apartment block is written in Ukrainian, Ukryta, which basically means there's a bunker, there's a shelter down there, and you have this perspective of this picture where the teenager with his football is running from the shadow into the light, and right next to him it's basically written he is a shelter in Ukrainian, which shows again the contrast, right? Like the people and the youth is trying to live their life and continue living their life, and almost nothing is stopping them. It's this, not even the war.
Okay, and just before we move on to the third picture, if you're just joining us, please do request the mic, send us a nest, your most memorable, most poignant photograph from the Russian invasion of Ukraine and Ukraine's defiance and resistance during the last 612 days. This is what we're talking about. So the next submission from the audience is the one that you can see in the nest if you're a live listener. It's of Ukrainian soldiers evacuating a newborn child at the destroyed Irpin River crossing in March 2022. And what was sent to us via DM, if you just give me a moment, I've got so many pages open, I can hardly navigate them correctly, was the following. Yeah, here we go. It is relevant to him because it shows the deliberate Russian targeting of civilians, the Ukrainian will to defend and to protect its people. And for him, the madness Europe hasn't seen since the siege of Sarajevo. This picture I should credit because I haven't in the one that I just posted to the Tochnyi account, but I will take down momentarily. The credit for this picture goes to Timothy Fadek from Redux Ivine. Okay, all right. So please do request the mic if you would like to, over the next 5 minutes, submit your own picture live. I think we'll turn next to the Odessa piano. So I think this Odessa piano was, it's about 150 years old, at least. There's been a bit of research done into this piano. It survived a Russian airstrike. We know this. And it genuinely survived the Russian airstrike on Odessa. You can see that, despite some of the ceiling having fallen in on this piano will be played again and will produce music again. We know this for a couple of reasons. One, there's no water damage to this piano, thankfully. There's been no burst water pipe leaking onto it, which would significantly disadvantage the ability of the soundboard to create the sonority which people know of a piano. The casework is largely undamaged. So this particular piano is one which is another example of one of these photos during the war that, of course, I find quite significant, and many others do too. Okay, Bernardo, over to you.
Yes, I think the piano, or the picture of the piano, is really interesting, right? Especially you mentioned that it's such an old piece, and all the dust and debris on top of the piano, but it seems to be still intact, and this is the good news, right? All right. Okay. If anyone wants to come up and talk about a picture he found very impressive or nice, please feel free.
Yeah, we're going to do this as a rolling series of Tochnyi segments, folks. So if you haven't quite decided, or you're still thinking about it, we've all seen a great deal of imagery from this wall. Trying to decide which is the most poignant or memorable is a challenging task. So we're looking to do one of these each episode of Tochnyi that we do. Please feel free at any time to DM your picture of choice and your answer to the questions which you can find on our timeline on the main account. So on that note, we are going to be streaming on multiple platforms in the near future. So please do check out Tochnyi on YouTube, where you will be able to find some very exciting new content.
Yes, like Jonathan mentioned right now, we are trying to bring in a visual component to our future streams, which is not that good possible with Twitter. Like you might have seen in this episode, we can post pictures in the nest, but it's kind of a multitasking for us, also for the listeners, to keep track of it. And having a visual component in our content in the future will be important for us and our future content. Yeah, we will try to make live streams here on Twitter. We will also try to continue doing the spaces in kind of a format. And also, we will be on YouTube. You will be also able to hear the full interview of Alex on YouTube. We will also, when it's ready, upload it to the Tochnyi YouTube and also to another YouTube channel, which is basically only talking about these journeys from Ukraine. And we will keep you informed about this.
Thank you, Bernardo. Sounds fantastic. Ukrainian journeys. Please do look out for future content on YouTube. That's it for today, folks. Thank you very much indeed for joining us again. Please have a great week and take care of yourselves. Slava Ukraini.
Herojem slava.
Slava Nasi.
Smash Waham.